All right, let's talk bear hunting. It's November, muzzleloading season is almost over, and you have 1 week of early bear season in there west of the Blue Ridge. It might be statewide, you have to check the regulations in Virginia. Um, but anyway, about bear hunting, when you're out, you're doubling your opportunity of game to chase. Deer, bear, they are a super fun critter to get after. They are secretive, they're elusive, they're a very private animal. And I also think people don't give them enough credit. They are a wonderful table fare and super hard and challenging to hunt. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about how to identify places to hunt bear, what to look for when you're in there, how to go about placing the shot, and the recovery of your bear. All right, when I'm talking about a place to look for bear sign, or just to go bear hunting, if you're already hunting in a pretty mountainous, rugged terrain, there's probably already bear there. There needs to be white oaks, red oaks, something for the bear to eat there. And you'll probably notice that when you're deer hunting also. But one thing specifically that bears like, they like rugged terrain. They like rocks, they like cliffs, they like laurel. I don't want to say the steeper the better, but if it's just a smooth ridge, me personally, I don't like hunting that for bear. I like to get on a steep side of it somewhere or off to the point of the ridge. Uh, Actually, the past three bear I have harvested have crossed a ridge at the very point, or actually over the point. So when the ridge comes down to an angle at the very end, they'll cross right at the end of it sometimes, or below the end of it. I personally don't know why they do that. I think they feel a little bit more guarded and protected, staying down in the brush, staying down out of eyesight off top of that hill. Uh, People think if you see a black bear, they're just going to run at you and attack you. That's not true. If they see you moving, smell you, they're long gone. Don't let that even be a worry. The only time I would worry about my safety with a bear is if it is a sow with cubs and I've surprised them and got in between them. Other than that, bear is a very safe animal to go after, so don't worry about that. But think thick cover. Think, where can a bear get to its food and where it needs to be in dense cover. Yeah, you'll see them sometimes on a hillside, by hillside I mean a wooded hillside. You'll see them there sometimes, out in the open, but they like to stay pretty tight to cover. And once you get in somewhere, you start seeing some bear sign and some scat. I'll point out a few pictures of what they'll look like. Um, just you'll start identifying their scat, and you'll be able to tell if it's fresh or not. Take the tip of your boot, kind of give it a poke, and if it moves a little bit, the softer it is, the fresher it is. Generally, it'll be a light color, almost like dark peanut butter, if that makes any sense. Might be the consistency of peanut butter. And sometimes it'll be like a patty. Sometimes it'll be curled up. Sometimes it'll look almost like in a log form, like the size of a pop can or something. Me personally, I think the bigger the scat, the bigger the bear. And I would say most people would agree with that. But another thing to look for is you're going up a trail or a path, wherever you're seeing this bear sign, look for what's called a stomp path. It is where a mature bear has walked day in, day out, or just every time it goes down that path, it'll almost step in the exact same spot. And a boar, when they step, they kind of turn their paw a little bit and it digs in the ground. And it'll almost look like a person has walked up this path. And once you see it, you'll be able to identify that time and time again. So once you get in an area, you start seeing some scat, maybe even a stomp path, start your bear hunting there. Be in and around that area, be close to it, and try to stay downwind of where you think the bear are. Okay, when you're out in the woods and you've seen a bear, or let's say like if you're looking at a bear, okay, your first thing you need to look for is, does it have cubs? Okay, if it's got cubs, it means it's a sow. Don't shoot it. Let it walk. There'll be more bear, I promise you. But if you see a lone bear in the woods, do your best to try to make sure it is of legal weight. If you've never seen one, that's a hard call to make. So try to research, some pictures, or even look, if it goes by a tree, try to figure out how high that bear is up on that tree. That's a good indicator you can go by of how tall that bear is. If the bear's only, below your knee or knee high, that's not going to be a legal bear. But anyway, as the bear's moving, You want to try to identify if it's a boar or a sow if you have to, if you're in a place that requires a boar or a sow. And anyway, a boar is going to have, I don't want to say a hump between its shoulder blades at the base of its neck, but there will be like a pronounced, we'll just call it a hump. I'll take it back. We'll just call it a hump. You'll see it. And I'll show you a picture of a sow that does not have that. And a boar will have that. And it's where its shoulder blades come up to the top of its back. And it's just a big knot of bone and muscle. And you'll be able to tell that even on a fairly younger bear, you'll be able to see that. And so that's a good indication of it's a boar. So, and when you get that bear down the ground, you'll feel that with your hand. You'll think, oh man, look at this big tuft of long hair up here. Well, it's not. It's the same length hair all across its back. It's just there's a big ball of muscle and bone up there at the top of its shoulder. So when you see that in the woods, you'll be able to identify it and you'll be able to say, hey, that's a boar bear. Or if you see one out somewhere, you'll be able to tell somebody. So just remember that and look for it. So when I'm bear hunting, I don't like to limit myself to one spot. And what I mean is, I don't necessarily want to just sit on a stand all morning or all afternoon until dark. By that, I mean, I don't want to like sit at the base of a log or in a tree stand. I might occasionally, that's if I think I'm at a really good spot that has the bear necked down to where they can't get away from me when they come through a certain place. But the reason I like to stay mobile and still hunt is because a bear moves a lot. If you see a bear out in the woods, I'm going to bet you that it will not be standing still unless it sees you or is eating something. So they move around a lot. And I like to stay mobile because the bear's moving, and I feel like I'm better able to get to the bear if I'm up and moving and standing. When I'm still hunting, I just go from tree to tree as I'm walking. I'll walk to one tree, I'll lean up against it. I may stand there 30 seconds to 5 minutes listening. Then I will slowly slip up to the next tree. And I'm doing this in places where, like I said, I've seen their scat, their stomp paths, and where I just feel like bear will be. And as you're doing that, just be observant, listen for a bear. If you've ever been to the woods hunting and you've heard squirrels, you know they make more noise than a deer. Okay. Same way with a bear. They make more noise than a deer. They sometimes sound like turkeys come through the woods scratching. They don't necessarily try to be quiet. They can be very quiet, but I wouldn't say they try to be quiet. They make a fair amount of noise. And you'll hear them scratching in acorns or flipping over a small log or even a big log, digging, eating. They might be digging for roots. And so listen for that. And if you hear that, try to get closer to it if you can. That's how I like to hunt them. I feel like I'm really stalking the game whenever I'm still hunting, and I can identify and hear them. Like the bear I just shot this week, I actually heard this bear coming, and I felt like it was a bear. One, because I was in an area where the ground was littered in scat, but two, it was just a lot of noise. It sounded like too much noise for a buck to be after a doe or a buck making a scrape. It didn't really sound like turkeys, and it was slowly coming my way. So I was actually trying to work up this ridge to get above it. And long story short, the bear came to me, quartering to me, and I was able to get a shot on it. But when you're slipping along, just be mindful that you need to stop at a tree, lean up against a tree, and listen. And I think that is the ultimate way to hunt black bears. You're not using a hound, you're not baiting, which you can't bait in Virginia anyway, but it is just a very exciting way to get close to a bear on the ground and take it with your weapon of choice. When it comes to bear, you're not going to be able to fool their nose. A bear has an excellent, excellent nose. They'll wind you from 200-300 yards away, maybe even further. I personally think they have a better nose than a deer. They have, me personally, I think they have very excellent hearing as well. But I don't think if you're walking, I don't think it startles them quite like it does a deer. For whatever reason, you'll be able to get away with a little more noise with a bear. Movement, I also think you'll be able to get away with a little bit more movement on a bear than you can a deer. Um, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's about their eyesight. Maybe we could do a little more research and find out. But if a bear is coming towards you and you need to move, treat it just like a deer. Try not to move until its head is behind a tree or it's looking the opposite way. There'll be opportunities for you to get your gun up, to get turned, however, your bow up, get positioned. But a bear, I don't think they can pick out fine details like a deer can or a turkey. Uh, For example, the past 3 bear I've harvested, I've took them on the ground with a rifle or a muzzleloader, and one of them was at about 10 yards, the other one was at 20 yards, and one this week I think I stepped off at something like 18 yards. And the bear this week, when it come up in this logging road, it could tell that something in front of it wasn't quite right. Like it looked right at me, and it could tell something was off, but I was tucked up against a tree as tight as I could get, and I already had my gun up. But it still gave me 3, 4 more steps, and I actually think it would have came closer if I would have let it. But the shot opportunity was getting worse. And while we're talking about that, let's go ahead and talk about how to take a shot on a bear. You want to get behind the shoulder on a bear or dead center in the chest. That's me personally. Avoid their shoulders. Their shoulder bones are very thick. There's stories upon stories of bullets and arrows bouncing off a shoulder bone of a bear, not penetrating, wounded the game, and it getting away. So as the bear's walking, try to catch it with its front arm forward if it's on a broadside shot or quartering away. If the bear is quartering to you, that's a really tough shot to make. Um, just leave that call up to you. Me personally, I'm going to take that shot, but I'm going to try to tuck that bullet in front of that shoulder if I can, because that shoulder bone is just so tough. Even on a pretty average sized bear, 130, 50-pound black bear in the Blue Ridge Mountains, that's a tough shot to make. If the bear's coming right at you, you see a bear up close, you'll see their hair comes to like a little tuft right here in their chest. Just put your crosshairs on that and shoot. That'll be a killing shot, a deadly shot, and it'll take care of the game quickly. When a bear's shot and takes off, sometimes it takes them a little while to start bleeding. They've got so much fat around their sides, their belly, their back, and they've got such long hair. It takes a while for that blood to start coming out. So they may run 20, 30 yards before any blood starts coming out. So if you shoot and a bear runs off, give it a little while, and once you start tracking it, don't get discouraged right away, because it may even take 50 yards for that blood to start coming out if the bear goes very far at all. So you just need to look for that blood. A bear doesn't make a lot of sign in the woods when it's running, not like a deer, not like you think it would. So you really need to mark the last place you saw that bear. You can start looking for blood there and just take your time. And if you put a good shot on it, there'll be blood and you'll be able to follow it. All right. So you've been out bear hunting, you've took your shot on this bear, you feel good about it, you've marked the last place you saw the bear, you went to it, you found some sign where the bear went, you found some blood, and so now you're tracking the bear. All right, this is a very exciting time. It's probably my second favorite thing to do while bear hunting is tracking them down if they went out of sight after you've made the shot. It is a very tedious part if there's not a lot of blood, but if there is a fair amount of blood, it's pretty easy to track one. Like I said, you won't see where it has walked unless it's struggling to walk, but look for that blood. Make sure your gun is loaded. Now, I'm not saying take it off safety, but you want to make sure your gun's loaded in case you jump this bear or you come into it at close range. So what I like to do is I like to look for the blood and then look out in front of me. Look for some blood, look out in front of me. And I may go 5, 10 yards at a time and then look. Okay, and I do that because the main reason is because a bear has a lot of teeth and claws. And if it is not dead when you get up on it, it's not going to be happy. Okay, I've never had a bear charge me after it's been shot, but they could if they wanted to. So just be mindful of that. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to be real with you that that can happen. The bear I shot earlier this week, I had to shoot it twice. When I got to tracking it, I actually heard it up in front of me. And long story short, what the bear did, it couldn't make it all the way to the top of this ridge. So it turned, came back down the ridge towards me, and it saw me, and it just stopped. Now, what was it going to do? I don't know. I didn't give it much time or thought of what to do. I took a shot. I shot that bear out in the chest, and it expired in seconds. So just be mindful of that. Be looking for the bear as you're going. And a bear, when it lays down, it can get pretty low to the ground. So just take your time, look for blood, look for the bear, look for blood, look for the bear, and listen for sticks breaking, anything like that. And one thing that you may not read about, and some people don't like to talk about, it's not the most um, glamorous thing ever in the woods to hear this, but half the bear I've killed have let out a death moan. I personally don't know what the death moan is, but I do know this. I've seen bear take in some few breaths, let out a long, strenuous moan, and then they'll expire. I don't know if it's that bear knowing that it's leaving this world or what it's doing, but if you hear that, I'm going to say that bear's dead. I wouldn't say he's making them noises because he's feeling good. So listen for that, but don't just go running in there if you hear that. And it can be a spooky, eerie sound, might even be startling, or it can even be upsetting. The first time I heard it, I ain't gonna lie, it upset me so bad it almost ruined the hunt for me. But that's just part of it. You'll grow, you'll learn, you'll mature in that, and that's just part of it. So listen for that also. And anyway, once you can see the bear, hopefully you'll be above it or level with it. I wouldn't ever approach a down bear from below it. They can move really fast. And if they want to leave this place, they'll take off. They might run by you, over you, whatever. So stay out of their way. Try to get up above them, come in from above them, have your gun or your bow ready, and slip down on them. And then, give them a poke, whatever you need to do. You can even, when you get up above them, holler, like, hey, bear, hey. You don't see them moving. If you can't see them breathing, that's a pretty good indication they're dead. But if you're coming up on them, look for their eyes, their mouth, and their nose. If their eyes are open, they're dead. That's how I go by. If their eyes are open, they're dead. If their eyes are closed, I would treat them as if they're alive. You can see their nose and their mouth. You'll be able to see their nostrils if their nostrils moving or if their mouth is quivering. So use those as indicators of the condition of the bear when you come up on it, and you'll have a good time. All right, so you've got to your bear. You've field dressed that bear. If you don't know how to field dress a bear, field dress them just like you do a deer. Start down towards their groin, come up to their sternum, and don't just jab your knife in there. Just make a small slit. And you'll be able to pull their intestines out. I don't have a video of that. I'm not getting into that, but you'll be able to figure that out pretty easy. That's the easier part of getting your bear home. All right, dragging a bear. Dragging a bear is not like dragging a deer. I don't think they drag as easy. They've got big, bulky front shoulders. They don't really have anything for you to grab hold of like a pair of antlers. So the easiest way, in my opinion, to get a bear out of the woods is if you can get to him before rigor mortis sets up, is cut you a stick maybe 12 inches long, big around as a broom handle. If you got a saw with you. If not, go break you one off. Cram that in the bear's mouth and get it as far back in its teeth as you can. Okay, do that. Then take their front paws, and you can do it one of two ways. I'll show you a picture of how I drug the bear out this week. That worked really well. I may even start doing it that way. But the way I've done it in previous years is take its front paws and pull them up over its head as close as high as you can get it like that. And what that does is, once you've got that stick in their mouth, you've got his wrists tied to that stick. So that stick is being pulled back in its mouth by the rope from its wrist to the stick. Okay. And then tie another rope from that stick, or even the same one if you got enough, up in front of the bear and make you a loop. So it's just going from side to side, wrist to stick, over to the other side of the stick, to the wrist. The picture will make more sense. And if you've got enough rope, tie it into that one, tie another stick to it, and you'll be able to drag it. And that takes all the pressure off the bear's neck and its nose. If you're going to mount it or have any sort of taxidermy done to it, try not to wrap a nose tight and bind it around its nose. It'll crush. That bone don't come all the way out to the end. And anyway, keep that short, that rope pretty short. That way, when you're dragging it, its head is coming up off the ground. I'll drop a video in here so you can see what that looks like. But it's pretty easy to figure out. If you get to pulling on it and the bear's slipping up or trying to roll over, just take a minute, look at what's going on, try to remember these pictures, and just bind it up as tight as you can, and it'll go good. If you're going down a very steep hill, like by steep hill, I mean something you need to hold onto a tree to get down, you can do what you want with this. But me personally, I don't think it's very safe trying to drag that bear down that hill. Because you've got a rope, you can get tangled up, the bear can slide down on top of you. Just get it somewhere where it's pretty steep. You're not going to hurt this bear. You're not going to hurt the hide. I mean, if it's a cliff down below, obviously don't do this. But if it's just straight woods, just get it on the edge of that bank, that ridge, whatever, and just kind of give it a little push, and it'll roll a long ways. It'll roll and slide, and it's a whole lot easier than trying to fight and pull that bear down that mountain. So you can give that a try. I don't know if a lot of people do that. That's what I do. It's worked out really good for me. Hope that video don't bother you when you see it. but that's just another part of getting your game out. Um, yeah, and then loading a bear, you can pull a lot of hair off a bear trying to drag them up on a tailgate, excuse me. So if you're gonna make a rug out of it, just be mindful of that. Um, if you're by yourself, just do the best you can with that. And yeah, so once you get them in the vehicle, get them home, get you some pictures, and hope you have a hide or a skull that'll last you a lifetime. Enjoy. As far as bear hunting goes, there's not a ton of information out there. There's some pretty good resources as far as literature. I personally got two really good books on it, and I subscribe to a magazine. So I'll try to post a link to that or a photo of that so you can see what those are, and you can get a copy of it in your hands and read it and enjoy it.